It all began in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where lawns were perfectly trimmed, mailboxes were uniform, and the HOA board acted like they owned the residence. Mark, a quiet and hard-working man, had lived there peacefully for years with his golden retriever, Max. Max was gentle, friendly, and well-trained, but to one person, Max was apparently the loudest criminal in town. Karen lived 2 houses down. She was the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood's peace, always peering from behind her blinds, ready to report anything that moved. When she heard Max barking one morning for less than 2 minutes, she decided enough was enough. She recorded the sound, exaggerated it, and sent a formal complaint to the HOA. Within days, Mark received a warning letter stating that continuous barking was a violation of HOA regulations and could result in fines. He was stunned. Max barked only when delivery trucks passed or when squirrels ran across the fence. Still, he complied, hoping the matter would settle, but Karen wasn't done. She began following him on walks, documenting every bark, and claiming that Max terrorized the peace. Soon, the HOA sent a second notice. They demanded Mark install a bark control system and threatened additional fines. He appealed, explaining the truth, but the board sided with Karen, citing multiple neighbor complaints. That night, as he sat beside Max, Mark realized this wasn't about barking. It was about control. Karen wanted to make an example of him, and the HOA was her weapon. Then something inside him shifted. If they wanted to play by the rules, then he would too. Just better. Mark began researching HOA bylaws and local regulations. That's when he found a loophole, one that would soon turn Karen's life upside down. He discovered that while the HOA could regulate pets, they couldn't interfere with licensed rescues. And animal rescues were protected under state law. It was perfectly legal, even in HOA neighborhoods. A smile crept across Mark's face. He knew exactly what he was going to do. The next morning, he made a few phone calls that would forever change the quiet streets of Willow Creek Estates. The first bark had started a war, and Mark was about to bring an army. The morning sun rose quietly over Willow Creek Estates, but peace wouldn't last long. 2 weeks after the HOA's second warning, moving trucks rolled into Mark's driveway. Neighbors peeked through blinds, whispering and speculating about what he was up to. Karen, of course, was the first to march outside, armed with her phone, ready to record any violations. Inside the house, Mark had already transformed his living space. The backyard fence was reinforced, new kennels were being installed, and a small wooden sign was being painted, Sunny Paws Rescue, licensed and approved. The paperwork had gone through faster than he expected, and the city inspector, seeing no violation of zoning laws, granted his rescue license without hesitation. By the end of the week, 10 rescue dogs arrived, each one saved from shelters where they faced euthanasia. Big dogs, small dogs, playful and shy, all eager for a second chance. Mark gave them love, food, and safety. What had once been a quiet home now came alive with wagging tails and joyful barks. But to Karen, it was chaos. Her morning coffee was now accompanied by the chorus of 10 happy dogs. Her perfect lawn parties were interrupted by the occasional bark echoing through the fence. And when she called the HOA again, demanding they shut down that kennel, she was met with a surprising answer: the HOA couldn't touch him. The president explained that Mark was operating under a licensed rescue permit, a protected activity under state law. His dogs were not considered pets under HOA definitions. They were rescued animals under temporary care. Karen was furious. She felt humiliated, defeated by technicalities she didn't understand. But Mark wasn't trying to humiliate her, at least not at first. He had simply wanted peace. A life where he and Max could exist without being policed by someone obsessed with control. Still, as he saw Karen pacing outside daily, waving her phone at every sound, he realized she had learned nothing. So, he leaned into his role. He began hosting adoption events on weekends, inviting families, volunteers, and even local news stations. Each event brought more people and more dogs. His driveway filled with cars, and laughter replaced the silence that Karen had once tried to enforce. The whole watched helplessly as their authority crumbled under the weight of legal paperwork and public approval. What started as one man and one dog had become a movement, and it was growing louder. But while most neighbors applauded Mark's efforts, Karen was planning her next move, one that would push this feud to its boiling point. Karen had never felt this powerless. For years, she'd ruled the cul-de-sac with clipboard in hand and a sharp tongue ready to report anyone who dared disturb her perfect peace. But now, to reclaim control, she went on the offensive. Her first step was to flood the HOA inbox with daily complaints. She claimed the rescue violated noise ordinances, parking restrictions, and even odor regulations. When the HOA ignored her, citing Mark's compliance with all state and city permits, she escalated further. She contacted animal control, the health department, and even a local reporter, hoping anyone, would see Mark as the villain she imagined him to be. But the opposite happened. The reporter visited the rescue, interviewed Mark, and published a glowing article titled "Local Man Turns HOA Harassment into Haven for Homeless Dogs." The piece went viral on social media. Within days, Mark's rescue had hundreds of new supporters, donations pouring in, and volunteers signing up to help. Karen was livid. To her, it was personal now, a battle she couldn't afford to lose. Late at night, she began sneaking around the property, taking photos, trying to capture something she could use against him. She even filed a private noise complaint with the police. When officers arrived and saw the well-maintained kennels, the dog's clean environment, and the valid paperwork displayed proudly on the wall, they laughed with smiles, and one of them even adopted a puppy on the spot. That was the moment Karen broke. The next morning, she stood outside screaming at board members during an HOA meeting, demanding Mark's animal farm be removed. The board, weary of her endless complaints and facing backlash from the community, finally voted to issue her a formal warning for harassment. It was a humiliation she had never experienced before. The neighborhood began turning against her. Where once her voice commanded fear, now it drew only eye rolls and whispers. Some neighbors even started helping Mark with his rescue, painting fences, and donating supplies. Children played with the dogs after school, their laughter echoing across the street, a sound that made Karen grit her teeth. But instead of backing down, she made one final, desperate move. She filed a lawsuit, a personal civil claim against Mark, alleging emotional distress and public nuisance. She thought she'd found a way to finally silence him for good. What she didn't know was that Mark had been preparing for this moment, and her last attempt at control was about to destroy everything she'd built. Karen's lawsuit sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. Flyers circulated, gossip spread, and the HOA board tried to distance themselves from her chaos. She truly believed this was her final chance to reclaim control, to show everyone she could still bend the rules in her favor. But what she didn't know was that Mark was 10 steps ahead. Mark had spent weeks gathering every document, photo, and recording related to Karen's harassment. He had HOA letters, timestamps of her visits, police reports of false claims, and even footage from his doorbell camera showing her trespassing late at night. His lawyer, calm but ruthless advocate for animal rights, saw right through her motives. They built a case so solid, it would not only clear Mark's name, it would expose Karen for what she truly was. The courtroom day arrived. Karen stood confident, convinced that her complaints about barking and traffic would finally sway a judge. But as Mark's lawyer began to speak, the truth unfolded piece by piece. The judge saw the timeline of Karen's obsession, every baseless complaint, every threat, every moment she crossed the line. The final blow came when the video played. Karen creeping along the fence line with a flashlight, recording dogs in the middle of the night. The courtroom fell silent. The judge's expression hardened. Not only was the lawsuit dismissed immediately, but Karen was ordered to pay Mark's legal fees and attend mandatory community service at an animal shelter. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Word spread through the neighborhood faster than wildfire. The HOA issued a public statement supporting Mark's rescue and condemning harassment within the community. For the first time, the residents stood united, not in fear of rules, but in defense of fairness. As weeks passed, Sunny Paw's rescue flourished, even installed a new sign by the fence, where barking is welcome. Karen, meanwhile, kept her curtains closed. The sound of joyful barking now haunted her every morning. Once the self-proclaimed enforcer of peace, she was now the cautionary tale everyone whispered about. The woman who tried to silence kindness and lost everything. Mark never gloated. He simply went about his days, walking backs and caring for his rescuers, smiling whenever a new family came to adopt. The war that started with a single bark had ended in poetic justice, and as the sun set over Willow Creek Estates, the faint chorus of happy dogs filled the air. A reminder that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply letting good things grow loud.